Chapter 1 Gift of God.
Is it possible for a man to live without air? No. If he tries, he will suffocate. Man cannot think of existing without air even for a minute. But do you know what is the price of air? It is nothing. It is a free gift from God. Similarly, we cannot live without water. This is also a free gift from God. We get water from rivers, ponds, wells, etc. God sends rain to the earth, with the result that we get water, and grain is produced. Cotton is also produced, and we get cloth. Thus, God gives us air, water, and indirectly food and clothes. Not only are we indebted to the Almighty for light from the sun and the moon, but He also gives us fruits, flowers, vegetables, etc. And because of all these blessings, we are happy on this earth. Let us think of our body. God has given us a balanced body with 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose, 2 hands, and 2 legs, all in their proper places. Sometimes, when we see blind, deaf, or dumb people, we pity them, and we feel how lucky we are that God has given us a healthy body with all the sense organs in good condition. Thus, God is very kind to us in so many ways. We should therefore remember Him always. We should serve Him. But how? We can serve God by going to the temple, by becoming ardent disciples of Him, and by trying to come into contact with saints. If we serve the great saints, God will be happy. Some people think that when you are young, you need not think of God. Only in old age one should remember God. But that is not true. Dhruv worshipped God in his childhood. Even Prahlad worshipped God when he was a mere child. The famous devotee Mirabai also worshipped God in her young age. Good habits must be formed in childhood if they are to remain with us. Thus, if we do not think of God in our young age, we cannot worship Him with real devotion when we become old. Therefore, let us make it a point to think
Chanting
about God.
the name of God. Dun.
You must have heard of the sage Valmiki who wrote the famous Ramayana. When he started his life, he was a dacoit. He killed people and robbed them of their possessions. He was a wicked sinner, but even such a sinner became a great saint by chanting the name of Ram constantly. Ajamil was also a shameless sinner to start with. Ajamil had 4 sons. One day the famous Saint Narad came to his house and told him to chant the name of God. Ajamil at first refused to do so because he did not believe in God. Then Naradji very shrewdly named his youngest son Narayan. And so it happened that whenever Ajamil called his son, he had to say Narayan. When this sinner was on his deathbed, the servants of Yam, the god of death, appeared before him to take his soul to hell. Ajamil cried out in terror and called out to his son, Narayan! Narayan! As soon as the servants of Yam heard the name Narayan, they disappeared in panic. Such is the power that lies in the name of God. During the time of Shiji Maharaj, there lived a heartless robber named Jobanpagi, whose sole occupation was looting and plundering. He used to harass the people. Sometimes he would kill them also. No one had the strength to challenge the tyranny of the dacoit Jobanpagi. Even the king's soldiers were afraid of him. However, his character was completely changed by the influence of Shiji Maharaj, who inspired him to live a pious life. He gave him a rosary and asked him to chant the name of God. Similarly, we can also change our irreligious thoughts and habits into good and pious ones by our devotion, by chanting the name of the Lord or by prayer. But how should we offer prayer to God? To whom should we pray? Sitting cross-legged, erect posture, and with our eyes closed, we must concentrate our mind on God and on revered saints. We must forget worldly affairs. God is always worshipped along with His true devotee. Hence, remembering God and the Master, that is, the Guru, we should chant their names in the following manner. Swami ane Narayan, Akshar ane Purushottam, Atma ane Paramatma, Brahm ane Parabram. We should chant in this manner every day. Swami Unatanand Swami, Narayan Sahajanand Swami, Akshar Unatanand Swami, Purushottam Sahajanand Swami, Atma Unatanand Swami, Paramatma Sahajanand Swami, Brahm Unatanand Swami, Parabram Sahajanand Swami. How many idols should you worship? 2. Which are they? They are Swami and Narayan, that is Bhakta and Bhagwan, disciple and God. Who is God? Sahajanand Swami. Who is his disciple? Gunatyanand Swami. Who is our Guru? Swaminarayan Swarup Das Ji, Pramukh Swami Maharaj. Who was his Guru? Swami Gnan Jivan Das Ji, Yogi Ji Maharaj. Who was his Guru? Swami Yagna Purush Das Ji, Shastri Ji Maharaj. Who was his Guru? Pragji Bhakta, Bhagat Ji Maharaj. Who was his Guru? Anadi Mood Akshar
Chapter
Murti,
3.
Unati
Prayer.
Swami.
Prarthana.
Lord Sahajanand Swami is our father. We are his children. If we want nice food, new clothes, good books, we ask our father, and father brings us all these things. But if we want virtues, intellect, wisdom, then who will give us these things? These are the gifts of God. If we pray to God with devotion, he will certainly grant us all these boons. With pure heart and clear conscience, we should pray to God, that is, prayer. Come, let us pray to God now. Sitting cross-legged and closing our eyes, let us concentrate our minds on God. Let us remember God and the Guru, our master. With folded hands and in all humility, let us bow down to God and pray.
Shri Hari Jaya 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 Kari Akshar Dhamana Dhamita Mecho Purushottama Parabrahma Hari Cho Bhakta Janona Bhava Bhaya Hari Shri Hari Jaya 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 Kari Pragata Hari Guru Darshanyapo Prabhu Tava Namana Japiye Japo Tava Murati Nitya Hridaye Dhari Shri Hari Jaya 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 Kari Sadbuddhi Sad Guna Prabhu Apo Abhaya Kara Muja Sthira Parastapo Vigna Sakalane Sadhya Vidhari Shri Hari Jaya 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 Kari Shastri Maharajana Guna Nitya Gao Yogi Maharajana Guna Nitya Gao Pramukha Swamina Guna Nitya Gao Tava Charano Ma Shisha Mao Ashisha Vachana Dyo Anandakari Shri Hari Jaya 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 Kari Shri Hari Jaya 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 Kari.
O Sahajanand Swami, you are ever victorious. You are the Supreme Lord of Akshardham. You are the best, Purushottam amongst all men, beyond Brahm. You are Parabrahm. You remove the painful cycle of births and deaths of your devotees. O Sahajanand Swami, as you are ever moving about this earth, let me have your darshan. O Lord, we always chant your name, and may we ever establish your image in our heart. O Sahajanand Swami, we pray to you to bless us with wisdom and virtues. Your hand of Abhay Mudra be placed on our head, so that all our fears be warded off and our difficulties removed. We constantly sing the praises and the virtues of Shastriji Maharaj, Yogiji Maharaj, and our Guru Pramukh Swami. We bow our heads down at your lotus feet. So please bless us, we can be happy. This is how we should always offer our prayer regularly to the Almighty so as to give us good sense
Chapter
and
4.
virtues. Purna Purushottam Sahajanand Swami. We know him as Swaminarayan Bhagwan. Now let us, in brief, see who he was. Swami Sahajanand was born on the 9th day of the first half of Chaitra in Vikram Samvat 1837, 3rd April 1781, in a village called Chapaya near Ayodhya in Uttar Pradesh. He belonged to a Brahmin family. His father's name was Dharmadev and his mother's name was Bhakti Mata. He had two brothers. The elder one was called Rampratap Bhai and the younger one Icharam Bhai. His parents were greatly devoted to Lord Krishna. They were very religious-minded and had deep faith in God. In his childhood, Sajanand Swami was given the name of Ghanshyam. Like Lord Krishna, Ghanshyam also performed many miracles in his childhood. Everyone loved Ghanshyam, and because of his divine gifts, people began to think that this child must be an incarnation of God. Once, when Ghanshyam was very young, he went with his father to a conference of learned Pandits, where he defeated them all in a debate on religion. Everyone was amazed at the knowledge and intellect of this young boy. All the same, to his parents, he was a very obedient son. Ghanshyam would spend the whole day in worshipping God. In Ayodhya, he always passed his time in the temples. He was in the least interested in playing or in gossiping with boys of his age. One day, after the death of his parents, he left his home quietly and secretly. Renouncing the world, he put on the garb of a saint and began his travellings in the forest. Everyone now called him Nilkant. Wherever he went, he made the surroundings seem holy and pious. Even the rivers, valleys, lakes, and forests came under the spell of his divine influence. He was not afraid of the wild animals of the forest or of the wild forces of nature. He charmed and convinced many saints and rishis by the beauty and logic of his discourses and bestowed upon them moksha. Nilkant exposed the hypocrisy of many pseudo-saints. He brought salvation to no less than 900,000 rishis. He learned Ashtanga Yoga from a great saint called Gopal Yogi. In return, Gopal Yogi obtained his blessings. After going around the whole of India and visiting many temples, places of pilgrimage, and religious institutions, he came to Saurashtra. In the small town of Lodh, there was the ashram of Ramanand Swami. In that ashram, Nilkant met Muktanand Swami. He asked Muktanand Swami 5 questions and got the right answers from him. Thereupon, he decided to stay there for some time longer. At that time, Ramanand Swami was in Kutch. After a few months, he came to Piplana. Nilkant met him. Ramanand Swami was pleased and said, "I am just a drum beater, but the real player leader is this brahmachari Nilkant." In a very short time, he gave him Diksha and renamed him as Sajanand Swami. His disciples began to call him Maharaj or Shriji Maharaj. Ramanand Swami selected Sajanand Swami from amongst all his disciples to be his heir and offered him his holy seat. Sajanand Swami was so kind-hearted that he asked his guru 2 boons or blessings. This is what he said: "If your devotee suffers from any pain, let that pain be transferred to me, if necessary multiplied 1,000-fold. But your devotee should not suffer. Secondly, if your disciple has to beg for food, let that begging bowl also fall to my lot, but under no circumstances should your disciple suffer or go without food or clothing. Let me suffer for them all instead." Impressed by the spirit of compassion shown by Sajanand Swami, Ramanand Swami readily blessed him and granted him these 2 boons. After the passing away of Ramanand Swami, Shriji Maharaj at once started the chanting of the name Swaminarayan. He also performed miracles by using his divine powers. He could put into a trance not only human beings, but even birds, animals, and aquatics. In such a trance, they had the vision of God. Some of Maharaj's disciples could attain that blessed state by remembering him and thus forget their identity and become one with the Almighty. As a result of all of this, everyone began to worship Shriji Maharaj as a supreme divinity. Hearing about his great glory, people desirous of acquiring spiritual knowledge came to him from various parts of India. Many leading saints were given Paramhans Diksha. In a single night, he initiated about 500 Paramhansas. All these Paramhansas spread the message and the glory of Swaminarayan in every nook and corner of India. Shriji Maharaj also undertook the task of social reform and did social and relief work. During the famine, he started many institutions where free food was distributed to the needy. He was responsible for the digging of many wells and tanks to provide water. He stopped the practice of offering live animals in sacrifice and performed many sacrifices in a non-violent manner. Shriji Maharaj started schools for education to the poor and to illiterate adults. He stopped many vile customs especially prevalent among the people belonging to the more depressed strata of society. He inspired the womenfolk to get themselves educated. He was instrumental in the construction of many beautiful temples spread throughout Gujarat. He taught the Sanskrit language to many saints and asked them to write religious books in the Sanskrit language. These books are full of knowledge. These saints have written many devotional songs in Gujarati also. Such books promote enlightenment. Shiji Maharaj exhorted the saints to rise above temptations from women and wealth and shun worldly pleasures. For their benefit, he formulated strict rules of conduct. They were not to think of material comfort and were expected to observe celibacy. He gave the Shikshapatri to his followers so that they could attain ultimate salvation from its observance. Shiji Maharaj advised his followers to go to Junagadh for a month every year to hear the discourses of Gunadadan Swami. He also asked them to honor implicitly the precepts of Gopalanand Swami. He established 2 centers, gadis, in Gujarat, one at Vartal and the other at Ahmedabad. He installed his own idol in the temple of Vartal. Shiji Maharaj spent 30 years of his life in Gujarat in the kingdom of Dadakacha. After serving humanity and blessing innumerable disciples, Sajanand Swami reverted to his divine abode Akshardham on the 10th day of the first half of the month of Jait in Vikram Samvat 1886. At his Samadhi in Gujarat, a beautiful temple has been erected in his divine worship. We eat every day. We don't get tired of that. We take our bath every day, and we sleep every day. Just as we go through this daily routine every day without fail, and spend time on it, so also should we spend time in worshipping God every day. We must make it a point to perform puja every day after our bath. We should not eat anything or even drink water before performing puja. This puja, done early in the morning, makes us feel holy and our mind becomes pure and peaceful. The whole day will pass in good thoughts. Thinking of God early in the morning makes us feel happy. The great King Amrish, in spite of his heavy work, used to spend hours in performing his puja. Let us see how we should pray to God. We must get up early in the morning and remember God. We must make it a habit of rising early in the morning. After that, we should go through the daily routine. While taking our bath, we should go on chanting Swaminarayan, Swaminarayan. After our bath, we should put on clean clothes and then sit down for puja. Shiji Maharaj has given definite rules about the puja ceremony. While performing puja, we should sit facing either north or east. We should sit on a clean asan, piece of woolen cloth or one made out of grass. After that, we should place an image or a picture of God on another clean asan in front of us. During this puja ceremony, we should also place on the cloth spread before us images in the form of pictures of Shiji Maharaj and Gunadadan Swami. We should also have the pictures of Bhagatji Maharaj, Shastriji Maharaj, Yogiji Maharaj, and Pramukh Swami Maharaj. After this, we should prepare sandalwood paste in clean water and should apply it to our forehead as tilak. In between the 2 lines of tilak, we should make a round jandlo of kumkum. Then we should sit in meditation, that is, remembrance of our Lord and Guru. After meditation, prayer should be offered to God, requesting Him to accept our puja. This is what we should say. O God, I am offering my puja. Please come and accept it. Uttishto tishta he nath Swaminarayan Prabhu Dharma suno daya sindhu Swesam sweyat param kuru Agaccha bhagavan deva Swasthanat parameshwara Aham pujam karishyami Sadatvam sanmukho bhava. Saying the above verse, then bowing to God and looking at the idol of God with concentration, we should take the rosary in our right hand, arrange it on the second finger, and with the help of the thumb count the beads chanting His name with every bead we turn. Holding every bead between the thumb and the forefinger, we should chant the name of Swaminarayan. The full rosary consists of 108 beads. When we reach the end, top of the beads, we must turn the rosary and start counting again. In this way, we should complete at least 5 rounds of the rosary. During this time, we should not speak or think of anything except God. The whole mind should be fixed on God. After the prayer with the rosary, we should perform tapni mara, and then pradakshina. That is, walking around the images spread on the earth and then prostrate before them 5 times. The puja ceremony should be ended with the prayer, O God, please protect me from the company of bad people. Please inspire in me only good thoughts so that I can please you and become a good satsangi. Please bless me so that I have abundant love for you, and forgive me if I have committed any mistakes in my puja. After the prayer, recite the following verse. Swastanam gaccha devesha puja madaya mamakim ishtakama prasiddhyartham punaragamanaya cha. After this, we should read 5 verses from the Shiksha Patri, and bowing before the idols, finally end the puja ceremony scrupulously every day in order to purify our hearts
6.
and enlighten
Brave
our mind.
Child Devotee. The saints of Shiji Maharaj went from place to place encouraging people to follow the divine path chalked out by Swaminarayan. Once, in the district of Jamnagar, a farmer's young son, impressed by their sincerity, asked to be initiated and took the 5 vows of Panchvartman. He prayed to God every day, offered puja, applied tilak onto his forehead, and daily visited the temple. His father, however, was unconvinced. He did not like his son's new beliefs and code of conduct. He told his son not to worship Swaminarayan. Daily, his father scolded him because of his puja ceremonies. He tried persuasion, then threats, then finally gave him a sound thrashing. But the boy would not yield. He eagerly pursued his new religious practices. One day, his father became so angry that he threatened his son with death. If you chant the name of Swaminarayan any more, he shouted, I will kill you. But he was a brave boy, and he calmly replied, Come what may, I will never give up what I have undertaken, the practice of worshipping Swaminarayan, who is God to me. The irate father then tied his son to the yoke of his cart and told him, Abandon these heretical beliefs and practices, otherwise I will kill you here and now by overturning this cart. The son replied that he was not afraid of death. He would not give up chanting the name of Swaminarayan, whom he had accepted as God. The angry father at once overturned the cart. With the name of Swaminarayan on his lips, the son smilingly met his death. In Garuda, Shiji Maharaj heard this pathetic story. He said this boy was indeed a true devotee. Prahlad could continue to have faith in God, as God saved him from the many cruel ordeals through which he had to pass, while this farmer's humble son was not so protected. And yet he did not flinch from his loyalty to his faith. His father was a veritable Hiranyakashipu. There is a moral in the anecdote which we must imbibe. We should never give up our faith or devotion in God, whether He protects us or not. That is the hallmark of a true devotee. There was a small town by the name of Jatalpur near Ahmedabad in Gujarat. A Brahmin woman named Gangama was living there. She was the disciple of Atmanand Swami, who was the guru of Ramanand Swami, and Ramanand Swami was the guru of Sajanand Swami. Whenever Shiji Maharaj came to Gangama's place in Jatalpur, she used to welcome him with such affectionate words, "Oh, my nephew son, welcome, welcome to my house." Shiji Maharaj would reply in the same affectionate tone, "Yes, my dear mother, I have come." Thus, Gangama loved Shiji Maharaj with motherly affection, but she did not know he was God incarnate. Once, Ramanand Swami appeared before Gangama in a dream and told her, "Sajanand Swami is the incarnation of God. I was just a drum beater, but the actual player, the real guru, is Sajanand Swami. He is omnipotent, the transcendental supreme divinity, manifested in a human form, and I am just a humble follower. You should not address him as son or nephew. You should ask him forgiveness for failing to recognize him as God. He will come to your place in a short time. Welcome him with all the adoration with which you would welcome God." Gangama heard within a few days of that Shiji Maharaj was visiting her town. She gathered all his followers, and in great pomp and splendor went to receive Shiji Maharaj. She asked her daughter to carry the Kadash with coconut on her head. Taking kumkum and singing holy songs, all of them went to receive Shiji Maharaj. Riding on the mare Manki, Maharaj came to Jatalpur. He had put on rich garments and ornaments. It was a glorious scene. All the disciples kneeled down in homage. The women expressed their devotion by offering puja from a distance. With the beating of drums and in full splendor, Shiji Maharaj entered Jatalpur. First, he went to the house of Gangama. She addressed him as Maharaj and requested him to sit on the mattress which was specially arranged for him. Maharaj asked her to address him as my son, nephew, as she always did. Gangama replied that now she knew better and could not address him as any longer in that old way. She then disclosed to him the dream in which Ramanand Swami had asked her not to address Shiji Maharaj as she used to till then. He was God, and she asked him to forgive her for not realizing it. "The Almighty God knew everything," he said smilingly. "Yes, I pardon you, but I like very much your addressing me as your son." Shiji Maharaj then sat on her cushioned bed, Gangama was now fully convinced and had complete faith in Maharaj. Gangama would prepare delicious food for Shiji Maharaj and always served him with love and devotion. Shiji Maharaj always enjoyed these dishes very much, especially the rice and dal prepared by Gangama. Wherever Maharaj went, Gangama followed him and looked after his meals and made arrangements for his comforts. Gangama always had the provisions needed to prepare meals for Maharaj. The basket contained a cooking grate on which she cooked his meal of rice, and whenever Shiji Maharaj relaxed on a journey, she would serve him a full meal of rice, dal, chapatis, vegetables, etc. With every care and devotion, she would thus keep a dish ready for Maharaj. Shiji Maharaj was greatly pleased by the love and loyalty with which she served him. In accordance with the instructions of Shiji Maharaj, his saints moved about various centers to spread his holy message. They had to undergo many hardships while carrying on their mission. Once, Swami Akhandanand was traveling alone. As his name suggests, he was really Akhandanand, that is, bliss personified. In spite of the many ordeals he suffered, his face always beamed with the glow of happiness. He derived great satisfaction in spreading the glory and message of Maharaj. He was a true saint. Once, when he was going on a particular mission, he lost his way and found himself in a dark forest. There was no sign of any human habitation. The forest was dark, dense, and wild. As he processed, he saw a ferocious tiger. Swami thought that his death was near. The tiger will certainly devour him. But he remained unruffled. He remembered that one day or another he would have to face death, so why not that day? His body would provide food for the tiger. With these thoughts in mind, he went ahead without any fear. But God always protects his devotees. How can he let them down or even bear to see them suffer? Swami Akhandanand thought, I am Atma, I am immortal. Why should I fear death? My name is Akhandanand. Who can snatch away my happiness? Emboldened by such ideas, Swami went and stood in front of the tiger. When a prey has fallen into his hands, no tiger would let go. He lifted his paws as if to strike at the prey in front of him. Akhandanand remembered Shiji Maharaj and flushed all fear out of his mind. Suddenly, as if answering a call from above, the ferocious animal dropped its paws. Then the tiger fell at the feet of Akhandanand, as though he was acknowledging his master. After a time, the tiger rose and slowly disappeared into the forest. Ramanand Swami was the guru of Shiji Maharaj. He was also the guru of Muktanand Swami. At the time he decided to return to the divine abode, he declared Shiji Maharaj as his spiritual successor, and instructed all of his followers that they should remain under the charge of Shiji Maharaj. Muktanand Swami was very much attached to Ramanand Swami. After Ramanand Swami's passing away, Muktanand Swami became very depressed. Shiji Maharaj decided to remove the grief from the heart of Muktanand Swami. Once, Shiji Maharaj was in the small town of Kalwani. Early one morning, he was going with the other saints for his bath in a river, and Muktanand Swami was following them close behind. Suddenly, there was a flash of light, and Muktanand Swami had a vision of his guru Ramanand Swami. With tears in his eyes, Muktanand Swami bowed to his guru. Ramanand Swami asked him, Why are you so despondent? Did I not tell you that I was a mere conch blower, and Shiji Maharaj was the Natraj? Accept him as your guru, and I shall be pleased. Your grief will disappear. Muktanand Swami followed the advice of his guru. His grief-stricken heart leaped with inexpressible joy. After his bath in the river, he came to the temple and put on a garland of flowers around the neck of Shiji Maharaj, and pledged his loyalty and devotion, and as an expression of his faith, composed a song of dedication, an arti on the spot. This holy song irradiates our recite the mantra of Swaminarayan. Then prostrate before the Lord 5 times and recite the following shloks in praise of the Lord. In this way, all should perform arti. Sing in this prayer, one should move one's right hand with a lighted lamp in a clockwise circular movement in front of the image of Shriji Maharaj and our Guru, and ring a small bell with one's left hand. Every evening at the temple. Where there is no temple, all the family members should get together every morning and evening and do arti. This helps in enlightening the brave Bhaguji. Bhaguji was a personal attendant of Shriji Maharaj. He was a very devoted and brave man. He had forsaken everything including his material wealth and chose to remain in the service of Maharaj. Even though he was small and stunted, he was very brave. In those days, people were greatly harassed by dacoits and thieves. Maharaj used to engage brave watchmen like Bhaguji for protecting the fields of Dada Khachar. Even the hardened robbers were afraid of Bhaguji. They dared not enter the fields when guarded by this brave man. No robber was prepared to face Bhaguji in the fight. The Darbar of Bhadli state, Bhan Kachar, once proclaimed that he would give a piece of land and a precious reward to any person who would kill Bhaguji and bring his severed head. But no one was bold enough to fight with this brave lion Bhaguji. Ultimately, two brothers from Sindh, Kabard and Mataro, took up the challenge and came and met Bhaguji when he was guarding the field. Bhaguji told Kabard to strike him if he dared. Kabard attacked Bhaguji so fiercely that he was severely wounded. After tying up his own wound, Bhaguji returned the attack and killed Kabard with a single blow. Then Mataro took up the fight. The struggle went on for some time. There were 18 wounds on Bhaguji's body, but despite the wounds, Bhaguji attacked Mataro so fiercely that he ran for his life. But Bhaguji was mortally wounded, and there was no hope of his survival. Maharaj himself looked after him. He dressed the wounds and also stopped the beating of the drums, arti, etc., throughout the town because the beating of the drums would awaken the valor of Bhaguji. He might get up, and the stitches of the wounds may open up. Shiji Maharaj used to come daily to nurse him. Once, the barber, who was dressing Bhaguji's wounds in the town, was bribed by Bhaguji's enemies to kill him. The barber, out of greed, dressed up the wounds with some irritative medicine that burned. At the same time, somebody kept ringing the bell loudly in order to upset Bhaguji and worsen the illness. Bhaguji suffered severe pain. On hearing about this, Shiji Maharaj immediately came to see Bhaguji. He understood at once that somebody had plotted to kill Bhaguji. Maharaj scolded the barber, who confessed that he would offer a piece of land to murder Bhaguji. Maharaj asked Sachidanand Swami to take care of Bhaguji, and if necessary, defied the god of death, Yam, as Maharaj wanted to give him a new life. Maharaj's protection worked, for within a short time Bhaguji recovered. When the king of Bhavnagar, Bapu Vajay Singh, heard about the bravery of Bhaguji, he thought of recruiting him for his own army. He called Bhaguji on the pretext of honoring him and asked him to accept his offer, and said he was willing to pay a salary of 300 rupees a month and give him a high post in the army. Bhaguji declined the handsome offer. He said, "I want nothing. I only wish to spend my whole life in the service of Lord Swaminarayan. I have given up everything and all my wealth only for this purpose. I want to pursue the right path." Vajay Singh Darbar was greatly impressed with the reply and admired Patel. A true devotee of God sacrifices everything in return for the Lord's grace and blessings. He does not hesitate to give up everything, wealth, family interests, even his own life for such a goal. We shall now read the story of one such devotee. Samat Patel was a faithful disciple of Maharaj, lived in a small town of Bambarnia. Once he came to Garda to have darshan of Shiji Maharaj. At the time, Shiji Maharaj was busy supervising the construction of a temple. He was in need of money to pay the salaries of the laborers engaged in the task. He asked Samat Patel whether he would help him. Samat Patel readily agreed. Immediately, Samat Patel went home and sold everything he had, his land, bullock cart, buffaloes, and collected 4,500 rupees. He then came to Shiji Maharaj and offered him the whole amount. Shiji Maharaj asked him from where he had brought such a large amount. Samat Patel without hesitation replied, "I had the money with me." But the all-knowing Lord knew from where the money had come. He asked Samat Patel to tell him the truth. Samat then told Maharaj how he had sold everything he had. Maharaj said, "You have sold everything. How will you eat, and how will you feed your family? I shall keep only 1,000 rupees. I want you to take back the rest of the money." Samat Patel replied, "We will not starve. We will borrow food grains from other villagers. Next year we shall return what we will have borrowed." Shiji Maharaj was happy to hear these words. Samat Patel was a true disciple and an ideal offering of food to the Lord. Third, we live because we constantly feed the body. Without food, we would die of hunger. The Almighty Lord gives enough light and water to grow food grains. The farmer's labor alone is not enough. We must therefore offer to the Lord a bit of everything that we eat before we start eating. God is the creator and the Lord of all that we see around us. Therefore, before we utilize these things to our benefit, we must first make an offering to Him. The Lord has created everything for use and enjoyment, but before we begin to enjoy these things, we must acknowledge our debts to Him. Food grows because of Him, and so we shall benefit if we eat the food that is consecrated by being offered to Him first. All the delicious sweets for which we have been especial liking should first be put before him. This offering is called Thard. Bhumanand Swami had composed this Thard, the story of which is narrated as follows. Once it so happened that Swami Bhumanand did not get anything to eat for 4 days. On the 5th day he came to a town. A saint there took pity on Bhumanand Swami and gave him some green wheat grains to eat. Bhumanand Swami was overjoyed, and being a poet, words flowed spontaneously from his lips in praise of the Lord. In gratitude he found himself offering to God some of the green wheat which he had been given to him as bhiksha. Shiji Maharaj gave him darshan and accepted the dishes spoken of in Thard. Maharaj spoke words of cheer and consolation to Bhumanand Swami, and then disappeared. Since then, this Thard has become popular in satsang. Let us also sing the same Thard and keep Maharaj in our minds. If we show sincere devotion to Shiji Maharaj, as Bhumanand Swami did, he will surely come and accept our Thard. Then wait for a short while and imagine that the Lord is eating quietly. Help him wash his hands and mouth and then sing. We should always first offer our eatables to God and then only eat, and thus express our thanks to Him for what He has given. Jodo the Shepherd. Once, when Maharaj passed through the village of Nani Barai, Jodo was so fascinated as a result of Maharaj's darshan that he immediately left his home, wife and children, and his cattle and followed Maharaj to Garida. There he took service under Shiji Maharaj. Maharaj once appointed the shepherd Jodo to look after the cattle of Dada Kachar. This shepherd had an affectionate nature, though his language was rather rough. He loved Maharaj very much. He would not accept any rich or tasteful dish, since he believed that the followers of God should not indulge in any tasty dishes, but should have only plain buttermilk and a loaf. Once the women were preparing dudpak at Dada Kachar's darbar. Unfamiliar as he was with such a preparation as dudpak, Jodo did not approve of it, and thought that valuable milk was being burnt away. He complained to Maharaj, "Ladua and Jibuba are burning our milk. Milk should not be burnt away." Maharaj smilingly replied, "Take the cattle to the field and come back for lunch at noon." Jodo was provoked but went away as directed. When he came in the afternoon, the saints were seated in meditation, lost in dhyan, covering their heads with the upper garments. When he saw them, he said again, "You have wasted the milk and now you have no alternative but to cry." Jodo had little understanding of anything. Shiji Maharaj quieted him. When Maharaj began to serve dudpak, Jodo protested, "Please don't give me that burnt milk." "Have some before you refuse," Maharaj said, and served him a little. He tasted it and then realized that the milk was not spoiled, but a fine delicious sweet had been prepared out of it. Many a time Jodo offered fresh milks seasoned with rich spices to Maharaj. At times he would offer fresh curd, buttermilk or butter, and Maharaj on account of his love for him accepted it. Sometimes he would milk the cows in such a way that milk fell in a spray from the udder of the feet of Maharaj. Every time Maharaj happened to pass that way, he saw some new evidence of Jodo's affectionate and innocent behavior. Sometimes Maharaj would help him in churning the buttermilk. During this process, Maharaj would uncover the buttermilk pot and eat the butter for fun, but Jodo's vigilant eyes would immediately catch Maharaj. Once, Maharaj tried to tease Jodo by calling him a fool. Jodo replied, "Yes, I know that you are so wise that you once deluged the whole universe only for one sparrow. Even though I am foolish, and you who are very wise, can you tell me out of these she goes which is Koili, Katuri, and Jamburi?" At the impertinence, Muktanand Swami reapproached Jodo, saying Maharaj is the omniscient God. Maharaj only laughed and then put Jodo into a trance and showed him the divine Akshadham. When he came out of the trance, he was ecstatically happy and realized the power and glory of Maharaj. Jodo's devotion can be compared only to that of the gopis of Vraj. He possessed such strength that he could drive away tigers, but he was very meek and humble before Maharaj. How great can be the devotion of simple the Muslim woman from Bhal region. God is merciful. His mercy knows no bounds. Even a little time spent in devoted service to Him frees a person from the clutches of Maya. Whether it is a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, or Parsi, whether it is a man or a woman, whether young or old, He is merciful to one and all. He showers His blessings on all alike. In the district of Bhal, there is a small town called Sodi. In this town lived a Muslim woman, Bibi. In her orchard, she had reared a babu tree. The tender sticks of this tree, used as toothbrush, grew in abundance, but the woman did not give them to anyone. She simply said, "These sticks are meant for God alone." Once, Shiji Maharaj came to that village. On the outskirts of the village, he wanted to have his bath in a pond that he saw. He therefore asked Surakacha to bring him a babu stick for brushing his teeth. Surakacha replied that in that dry area it would be impossible to find such sticks. Even so, Maharaj asked him to try, and accordingly Surakacha went in search of the babu stick, Datan. As he passed by the Muslim woman's compound, he saw the babu tree. He promptly requested her to give him a stick. The Bibi retorted, "I have not heard of any man in this dry Bhal region who would accept to find a babu stick here." Surakacha said that he had come from someone who was God incarnate. If that was so, the Bibi said, then she would come in person to hand the babu stick to him. So saying, she went with Surakacha, and when she saw Maharaj, she gave the green babu stick to him. Without so much as a word, some inner power had compelled her. She prayed to Maharaj, "O Lord, please come to fetch me on heaven when my days are over." Maharaj gave her the assurance as he would without fail. As time passed and the end of her life neared, sure enough the all-merciful Lord appeared before her. He had in his hand the same green bubble stick which she had given to Maharaj. The Bibi recognized him. She was immediately transported to the divine abode. How merciful Moor Akshar Murti Gunatitanand Swami. Jodia is a very famous port in Kathiawad, Saurashtra. There is a beautiful little town near Jodia port called Bhadra, which stands on the back of the river Und. On both the banks there are tall trees like mango, peepad, nim, rose, apple, banyan, etc. 200 years ago, in that town there lived a holy Brahmin, Bordanath Sharma, with his wife Sakarbai. As his name would suggest, Bordanath was really Borda, naive, gentle and religious-minded. Sakarbai was also very sweet-tempered and pious. Both of them were followers of Atmanand Swami. They did not have any children. Atmanand Swami once blessed them and told them that Akshar Brahm, the divine abode of the Lord himself, would take birth as their son. After some time, on the day of Sharad Purnima, in Vikram Samvat 1841, a son was born to them, and Ramanand Swami named him Mulji. Right from his childhood, Mulji revealed a fine intellect and immense devotion to the Lord. When he was 4 years old, he once told his mother to give him some milk. His mother replied that she would give him the milk after first offering it to God. Mulji rejoined with the surprising answer that when he drank milk, it was really God who was drinking the milk. So saying, Mulji drank all the milk in one gulp. As he did so, Sakarbai saw in her young son the very image of the Lord. Once, Mulji asked his mother to sing the songs that are sung during the sacred thread ceremony. His mother asked him, why? Mulji replied, Lord Ghanshyam has revealed himself on the earth as the son of Dharmadev. In Ayodhya, the sacred thread-giving ceremony is being performed at this moment. He is our Lord, so please sing some joyous songs. Sakarbai was amazed to hear this. She, however, sang the songs as bidden by her son. Many a time, Mother Sakarbai would tell Mulji to rock the cradle of his younger brother Sundarji. Whilst rocking the cradle, she would say, Mother, I shall become a sadhu, and my brother Sundarji will become a sadhu. Mulji was given the sacred thread at the age of 8. Sometimes Mulji's father would say to him, Mulji, you are still very young. This is the age when you should enjoy life. Mulji would calmly reply, Father, one cannot be sure of one's life, therefore one should engage in a devotion right from one's early age. Once, Mulji was busy in the field watering the sugar-cane crop. Shiji Maharaj suddenly appeared before him and reminded him of his mission on this earth. Our divine mission is to awaken the Brahmic consciousness. On hearing this, Mulji immediately left his home and went to meet Shiji Maharaj. After some time, on the 15th day of the first half of the month of Posh, in Vikram Samvat 1866, Mulji Bhakta was initiated into the sadhu fold at Daban and was named Gunatitanand Swami. Gunatitanand Swami was a great tapaswin, ascetic, and always engaged himself in the service of others. He used to serve old and ailing saints. He was very proficient in the art of preaching. The young Swami made the people realize the greatness of Shiji Maharaj. He was dutiful and obedient and carried out all the orders of Shiji Maharaj faithfully and enthusiastically. Shiji Maharaj was also very pleased by his undivided loyalty. When Shiji Maharaj started the construction of temple at Junagadh, he sent for Gunatitanand Swami. When Muktanand Swami brought Gunatitanand Swami, Shiji Maharaj took the garland from his own neck and put it around the neck of Gunatitanand Swami and proclaimed him as the Mahant, the religious head of the temple of Junagadh. At that time, when Shiji Maharaj decided to return to his abode, he sent a letter to Gunatitanand Swami, asking him to come and see him. On receipt of the letter, Gunatitanand Swami hastened to Gadpur, walking at the rate of 60 miles a day. He prostrated himself before Shiji Maharaj and then took his seat. Shiji Maharaj then asked all of his followers to visit Junagadh once every year and hear the discourses of Gunatitanand Swami for at least a month. On the 10th day of the first half of the lunar month of Jeth, Vikram Samvat 1886, Shiji Maharaj returned to his Akshardham. Gunatitanand Swami then went back to Junagadh and completed the construction of the temple. He also built dharmashalas for the sadhus. His simplicity, spirit of service, and spiritual greatness had a great impact upon the disciples who visited the temple. He used to sweep up the temple precincts as he believed it was a form of the service of God. He ate only simple food like mugdar, rotla, buttermilk, and khichdi, and always shunned rich and sweet dishes. He walked barefoot and always had a cold water bath. The local Muslim king and many Nagar Brahmins of Junagadh became his followers. He used to give learned discourses in a most pleasing manner. Well-known saints, acharyas, and even Gopanananda Swami used to come to Junagadh to hear the inspiring talks of Gunatidhananda Swami. Such great souls as Bhagatji Maharaj, Jaga Bhagat, Balmukund Das Ji, Yogeshwar Das Ji, and Raghuvir Maharaj were among his devout followers. Bhagatji Maharaj was a preceptor of Shashi Maharaj. The spiritual discourses of Gunatidhananda Swami are compiled in a book popularly known as Swamini Vatu. Swamiji stayed in Junagadh for 40 years. Then he went to Gondal. He reverted to the divine abode on the 12th day of the first half of the lunar month of Ashwin, Vikram Samvat 1923. His body was cremated at a place known as Akshardheri. The temple built on that monument by Shashi Maharaj has become famous 16, as Swamiji's talks, Swamini Vatu. We are now well acquainted with the life of Gunatidhananda Swami. He was a great believer in the divinity of Shiji Maharaj and a true exponent of his philosophy. Besides, in saintliness, dedication to service, meditational power, there was no one to equal him. Once he had asked Shiji Maharaj, "What shall I do? Shall I meditate, or shall I serve, or shall I preach?" Shiji Maharaj replied, "You should preach and propagate and give talks and discourses, and in this way explain the true form of God." In accordance with the advice of Shiji Maharaj, Gunatidhananda Swami led the life of a teacher and a preacher, and discoursed day and night, bringing spiritual benefit and enlightenment to the people. His discourses are known as Gunatit Gnan. The language of his talks is very simple and lucid, and can be followed by one and all. His anecdotes are very interesting and instructive. Let us listen to 5 of them. Number 1. Swaminarayan Hare, the Swami said, "There is no mantra so powerful as the Swaminarayan mantra. Even the bite of a poisonous snake will have no effect on the body of a person who chants this mantra with real belief. The mere chanting of this mantra would remove all vicious desires and make oneself Brahmrup. It would release a person from the bondage of God, karma, and maya. Such is the potency of this mantra. Therefore, one should always chant the Swaminarayan mantra." The divine power of the mantra was attested to when once a poisonous serpent bit the finger of Sri Yogiji Maharaj. Yogiji Maharaj was unaware of the snake bite, but felt the poison coursing through his body, while Bhakta Vallabh Das, who was working in the temple, saw the serpent crawling away. He immediately informed Shashi Maharaj. Shashi Maharaj ordered that Yogiji Maharaj should be taken to Akshardheri, the place where Gunatidhananda Swami was cremated, and that all should start chanting the Swaminarayan mantra with one voice. Accordingly, one and all began chanting the mantra. When the Maharaja of Gondal came to know of the snake bite, he immediately sent his doctor to treat Swamiji. But Swamiji refused to take the treatment and affirmed his faith in the chanting of the Swaminarayan mantra. He said that God would cure him. After about 12 hours, the effect of the poison gradually disappeared. However, the bite and poison were so vicious that the bone of the left hand index finger tip had withered slightly. Swamiji's index finger was as a result somewhat bent. As this story shows, we must recite the Swaminarayan mantra with fervor and devotion. Number 2. Swaminarayan Hare, the Swami said, "If one remembers God, he would always be there to serve him and provide for all his needs. If one worships God devoutly and with implicit faith in him, he will take care of everything. He will look after every single need of his devotee. But one must have complete faith in him." One of the disciples of Gunatidhananda Swami, Swami Balmukund Das, once told this anecdote in the temple at Challa. Some disciples jokingly asked, "If we do not cook and instead simply chant the name of God, shall we get our meal today? Will God get the meal ready for us?" Balmukund Swami said, "Yes, he will, but we must have implicit faith in him. Let us try." All of them then sat in the temple and started chanting the mantra and singing bhajans. Time passed. It was 11:30. Still there was no sign of any food appearing. Some followers started doubting whether Swamiji's faith was well founded. But Swamiji himself never wavered in his belief. Exactly at 12 o'clock, one of the disciples of Swamiji, who was not with them, suddenly arrived carrying various types of eatables, and offered them to Swamiji, asking him to distribute them among his followers. There was a surprise and delight at the sudden turn of events. They were speechless for some time. Swamiji was the first to break the silence. He inquired of the devotee how he happened to bring all that food. He explained that he was going to Amreli with the bridegroom's party of his son. As it was lunchtime, they halted at the place to have their lunch. When he was informed by the villagers that Swamiji was in the temple, it occurred to him that he might just as well bring Swamiji and others some of the food that they had prepared, since they had a lot more than they needed. Thus they found that when they prayed to God with full faith in Him, He did not let them down. We always profit by doing bhajan provided our devotion is real. Number 3. Swaminarayan Hare, the Swami said, one must think of salvation even if it means losing all our worldly possessions. If you amass material riches but fail to win salvation, there is no real gain. There was a Patel who lived in a small village. Once he happened to go for shopping in the nearby town. His wife gave him a long list of articles to be brought from the town. The Patel was very forgetful, so he noted down everything in his diary. When some of the villagers came to know about the Patels going to the town for shopping, they also came and asked him to purchase and bring various other things for them. The Patel noted everything down. The Patel drove to the town in his bullock cart. He thought that first he would buy things for his neighbors and later on for his own family. There was much hustle and bustle in the market. The Patel bought the things in villages wanted one by one and put them in the cart. The cart was filled up within a short time, so he returned home. The people of the village called at his house to collect the things that they had asked, and Patel gave them. One by one the articles had brought for them. Within no time the cart became empty. His wife, who was watching the disbursement with growing anxiety, asked the Patel about their own purchases. He scratched his head and confessed that he had absolutely forgotten about his own purchases. Shall we call Mr. Patel a wise man or a foolish one? If we think only of others but forget to think of our own moksha, if we neglect to worship God, then we would be as foolish as this Patel. So Swamiji stresses that we should think of our own salvation, even if it means less attention to work. We must think of God constantly if we are to attain salvation. If we give wholehearted devotion to Him and do bhajan regularly, then we may be sure that God will always protect us. Number 4. Swaminarayan Hare, the Swami said, God always protects those who put their trust in Him. Just as the eyelids protect the eyes, the hands protect the body, protect their children, a king protects his subjects, so also God protects those who believe in Him. Number 4. Swaminarayan Hare, the Swami said, God always protects those who put their trust in Him. Just as the eyelids protect the eyes, the hands protect the body, parents protect their children, a king protects their subjects, so also God protects those who believe in Him. Prahlad, Narsi Mehta, Mirabai, for example, were so deeply devoted to Him that the Lord always sheltered them from all the evil forces. Similarly, Shiji Maharaj watches over the interest of His followers. The following story will prove the truth of this assertion. Devotee Naja Bhakta was living in the small town of Badli. This small town was much oppressed by the shepherds. So Naja Bhakta went to live in another town called Bonyara. He told the king of the district about the power and greatness of Shiji Maharaj. The king heard him and then said, if you have met God truly, then He should present Himself here tomorrow morning. Otherwise, I will break all of your limbs. At that time, Shiji Maharaj was in Visnagar, and it was impossible for him to reach Bonyara within a night. So Naja Bhakta was worried and spent a sleepless night. The king was a very cruel man and would not hesitate to carry out his threat. Desperately, Naja Bhakta began to think of Shiji Maharaj and made a silent appeal. As he would have wished, Shiji Maharaj started out from Visnagar. On the way near Vardhan, there was a river in the flood. Walking over the waters, Maharaj reached Bonyara early in the morning and sent a messenger to the king informing him that the god of Naja Bhakta has arrived. Early in the morning, when Naja Bhakta opened the door of his house, with a trembling heart he saw Shiji Maharaj standing at his door. He first knelt at the feet of Shiji Maharaj in gratitude. Then after some time the two went together to the court of the cruel king. On the way, Maharaj heard about the people's woes and their cries of anguish. Naja Bhakta told Maharaj, the king is hard-hearted man and oppresses the people without mercy. When the king came to meet Shiji Maharaj at once sent him into a trance and showed him the horrors of hell. Here the king saw himself being mercilessly beaten by Yamaraj. After some time, the grace of Maharaj, he came out of the trance. Immediately he fell at the feet of Maharaj, confessed his evil deeds and asked for forgiveness. He realized that Swaminarayan was the Lord Himself. Henceforth you will be good and never commit evil actions. So saying, Shiji Maharaj ordained him into the fellowship. This is how Maharaj once protected his devotee Naja Bhakt when he was in danger. Number 5. Swaminarayan Hare the Swami said, some people have no control over their minds, while some have perfect control. We should ponder deeply over the question of the need to control one's mind. Our mind is full of worldly desires and is therefore our greatest enemy. It prevents us from thinking of God and offering worship or service. But there are people who can control their minds. In Gadara, there was a boy of the Koli caste. His father was growing sweet pumpkins in his orchard. The boy decided to offer the first pumpkin to Shiji Maharaj. When the pumpkins ripened, he took one of them to Maharaj. As he was on his way to meet Shiji Maharaj, he was tempted by the sweet smell of his ripe pumpkin. The boy thought that he might as well eat it. But almost immediately he scolded his mind, controlled his desire, and went on his way. Again, after some time, the thought came into his mind that people offered very nice and costly things to Shiji Maharaj. Who would appreciate an insignificant thing like a pumpkin? So why not eat it? But again he resisted the temptation. No, I have decided to give it to Maharaj. I must give it to him. Thus, keeping his mind under control, he soon reached the court of Dadakachar. Maharaj himself called the boy and asked for the pumpkin. He ate some of it himself, and the rest he distributed as prasad. Maharaj was very happy with this young boy because he had succeeded in controlling his mind. Maharaj asked the storekeeper to give the boy a handsome reward of 10 pounds of sugar candy to take home. In that meeting there was a banya. He thought if this boy could get 10 pounds of sugar candy of a single pumpkin, how much sugar candy would he get if he gave a crate full of pumpkins to Maharaj? The very next day the banya came to Maharaj with a cart full of sweet pumpkins. Maharaj told him to throw all the pumpkins into the river so that the fish may feed themselves. The banya was disappointed. He asked, why, Maharaj? Yesterday you gave 10 pounds of sugar for just one pumpkin, while I have brought you a whole cartload. Maharaj replied, yes, I did give that boy 10 pounds of sugar candy, but it was not for the pumpkin, it was for the self-control that the boy had shown over his mind. You came here with greed in your heart, so you will get nothing. Thus, if we fight desire and resist evil temptations, then Maharaj will be Shastriji Maharaj. You must have heard of the name of Shri Shastriji Maharaj. He was the guru of Yogiji Maharaj. He was born in Vikram Samvat 1921 on the day of Vasant Panchami in a small village called Merdav. His father's name was Doribai and mother's name was Hetba. In his childhood he was known as Dungar Bhakta. Dungar Bhakta was a very brave and clever right from his early days. In his studies he always came first. He had an instinctive belief in religion. Whilst playing with the older children, he would make temples out of sand and place idols of God in them and then offer his prayers to the idols. At the age of 17, he left home and became the disciple of Vijnananda Swami. Acharya Vihari Lalji Maharaj gave him Bhagavati Diksha in Vikram Samvat 1939, and he came to be known as Swami Yagna Purush Das. Nobody could compete with him in his knowledge of Sanskrit. He had defeated great pundits in religious debates, and so people called him by the name of Shastriji Maharaj. His piety and saintliness were unsurpassed. Shastriji Maharaj fearlessly preached the doctrine of Akshar Purushottam. Some saints, not approving of the doctrine, harassed him, insulted him, and sometimes even thrashed him. To avoid conflict, he left Vartal and went to Bochasan. Here he built a temple and installed the idols of Akshar and Purushottam. Shastriji Maharaj was responsible for the construction of the magnificent temples of Bochasan, Sarangpur, Gondal, Atladra, and Garuda. By his influence, the lives of dacoits, bandits, thieves, and sinners in general were wholly transformed. They became his ardent disciples. He founded the Bochasan Vasi Shri Akshar Purushottam Sanstha. Shastriji Narayan Swarup Das, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, was appointed the president of this institution. Shastriji Maharaj expounded the full greatness of our beloved Yogiji Maharaj. He performed many glorious deeds on this earth and reverted to Akshardham on the 4th day of the first half of the lunar month of Vaishak in Vikram Samvat 2007 in Sarangpur. Chapter 18. Behavior in School and at Home. We are the children and the disciples of God. We are the members of the Bal Mandal, Children's Society. Our manners and behaviors should be good and upright. If we tell lies and quarrel with others, our parents will naturally be blamed. People will ask, who are his parents? Who is his guru? Is he taught such bad manners in Bal Mandal? Thus, by our bad behavior, we bring disgrace to our parents, to our guru, to our society. So we must perfect our character and manners. A Satsangi child, after getting up early in the morning, should perform puja, and then he should bow down to his parents. Some children are very rude to their elder brothers, sisters, or parents. This is most unbecoming for a Satsangi child. We should respect our elders, we should obey them, and should be very polite when we talk to them. We should always use decent, respectful language while talking to people. Some children have a bad habit of quarreling with everyone over everything. They want things their own way. They pick and choose. They will wear only some clothes, eat only some kind of food. They want the best of everything. All this makes things difficult for other people. One should therefore take only what is available and be satisfied with it. The true followers of Shiji Maharaj will not make a row over trifling matters like items of food or clothing. We should put on whatever clothes our parents give us. In case we don't like them, we should express our disappointment or disapproval in a polite way, but we should never quarrel. There are children who always tease their younger brother or sister. A child would sometimes say, "Why should I work when my brother is idle? Why should we have better things than I? Why should I write with a pencil when he writes with a pen?" Thus, every now and then, there are petty quarrels arising from jealousy. A son of a Satsangi should not behave in this way. We should be above petty squabbles. We should be kind and helpful to his brothers and sisters, and should try to live in harmony with all the members of the family and cooperate with them. Some children are spendthrifts. They never enjoy food prepared at home, but would like to eat in a hotel or in a bazaar. They like to see cheap and vulgar films at least once a week. They have all sorts of fancies and extravagant habits, and if they don't get money, they won't hesitate to steal it in order to satisfy their evil desires. They keep company with children of similar undesirable habits. Such habits are bad and should be gotten rid of. A Satsangi should not eat anything from a hotel or the market. Foodstuffs served outside can be unwholesome. Our health can be adversely affected by such adulterated food. A good boy should not see the kind of films generally exhibited. He should not steal. If he wants anything, he should not steal. If he wants anything, he should ask his parents, but should never steal. He should always cultivate good company and avoid the company of bad boys, who have habit of stealing or telling lies. Good boys who are kind and well behaved are loved by one and all. People will also speak highly of their parents and their guru. Let us therefore resolve to observe the precepts given below. Don'ts. Number 1. We shall never steal. Number 2. We shall never tell lies. Number 3. We shall never eat in a hotel. Number 4. We shall never quarrel over trifles. Number 5. We shall shun bad company and keep away from addicts. Number 6. We shall never drink unfiltered water or milk. Do's. Number 1. We should always tell the truth. Number 2. We should always respect our elders. Number 3. We will worship God. Number 4. We will apply the tilak and kumkum mark on our forehead. Number 5. We shall always be studious. Number 6. We shall always attend our Balmandal meetings. Number 7. We shall always visit the temple. And number 8. Chapter 19. Punja Dodia. In Panvi village there was a Rajput Bhakta by the name of Punja Dodia. He had decided to end his life if he failed to see God. He once went to Gopinath and clinging to an idol of Lord Shiv, he decided to make a plunge into the tidal waves of the sea. All of a sudden he heard a divine voice. Lord Swaminarayan has incarnated and you shall meet his saints. Punjabai heard the voice and so returned home. One day Punjabai was going to his field with his plough. On his way to the field he met Kripanand Swami and Gunatitanand Swami. The devout Punja met them and kneeling at their feet prayed to them to show him where God is. He then took the two saints to his place and gave them food. Swamiji told him about the glory of Maharaj and exhorted him to follow the divine path. Punjabai became a Satsangi. Punja Dodia was much impressed by the advice given by Swamiji. He renounced all worldly pleasures and always contemplated about Maharaj. In addition, he also asked his daughter and her husband to follow the path of renunciation. Punja Bhakta had asked Vastakachar of Karyani to inform him whenever Maharaj came to his house. Once, quite unexpectedly, Sriji Maharaj came to Karyani. Vastakachar said Gangaram Dave to inform Punjabai about the arrival of Maharaj. When Gangaram Dave went to Panvi to tell Punja Bhagat about this, the latter was busy working in the field. As soon as he heard the news, he took the bullocks and the plough home, left them there, and hurried to Kairani. When he reached Kairani, he was informed that Maharaj had left for Sarangpur. Punja Bhai, disregarded hunger and thirst, ran after him in the direction of Sarangpur. On his way to Sarangpur, Maharaj decided to rest under a tree, midway between the two small villages of Sajeli and Vajeli. Maharaj told Naja Jogia that he was very thirsty. 3 times Maharaj drank water, but his thirst was not quenched. Maharaj then climbed the tree and saw Punja Bhakta come running in his direction. Immediately he got down from the tree and with a jug of cold water ran to meet Punja Bhakta. He embraced him, offered him water, and asked him to have rest under the tree. Maharaj told Naja that his thirst was now quenched. Punja was a very sincere devotee. Not only did he worship Shiji Maharaj, but also thought very highly of Shiji Maharaj's mare Manki. He thought that Manki was a very lucky animal, since Maharaj, God incarnate, rode on her. He used to bring grass for the mare to eat and always took care to see if it was fresh, soft, and had no thorns. Such was his love for Manki. He used to say that Manki was free from Maya and was a mukta because she had close contact with Shiji Maharaj, so she should not be given ordinary grass to eat. Once, Punja Bhakta was going to Garda with a fresh load of grass in his bullock cart. On that very day, Shiji Maharaj returned to Akshardham. Bhaguji and Ratanji were going to town to make the necessary arrangements for the funeral rites. They met Punja on the way. Bhaguji asked Punja Bhai where he was going. Punja Bhakta replied, I have brought fresh grass for Manki. I shall deliver this and have darshan of Maharaj. Bhaguji told him that the rider of Manki, Shiji Maharaj, had just left this earth. On hearing this, Punja Bhakta fell down unconscious. He regained consciousness after a long time, but he had foreboding that his death was near. He stopped taking water and food. He came to Garda and met Gopananda Swami and started mourning. Gopananda Swami offered him food, but he refused to take any, saying that he could not eat anything. Not that he wanted to starve, but that he could not relish any food at the time. On the 13th day after the demise of Shiji Maharaj, Punja Bhakta was performing his daily duties. As soon as his duties were over, he collapsed on the floor. His soul departed from his mortal body. Shiji Maharaj himself came to convey his soul to Akshardham. Such was the life of the great devotee, Natha Bhakta. In Vadodara there lived a staunch follower of Shiji Maharaj. His name was Natha Bhakta. Shiji Maharaj always spoke very highly of him. Natha Bhakta used to present skillfully woven clothes to Shiji Maharaj. He loved and adored Maharaj very much. Whatever little he earned, he would spend it for Maharaj and his saints by offering them rich and wholesome food. Once, Natha Bhakta had gone to Garda. After staying there for some time, he left for Vadodara with the permission of Maharaj. Some time later, Maharaj changed his mind and asked one of his followers to call Natha Bhakta back. The man hurried after Natha Bhakta and caught up with him at Vadodara, near the river Vishwamitri. On hearing the summons from Shiji Maharaj, Natha Bhakta turned back. Even though his home was nearby, he did not send any message to his own people. On hearing about his obedience and loyalty, Shiji Maharaj became greatly pleased. Natha Bhakta's wife was also an ardent devotee. When she died, many people saw Shiji Maharaj had come with his divine chariot to carry her great soul to Akshardham. At that time, Natha Bhakta did not mourn, though he had suffered a sad bereavement. Natha Bhakta did not grieve when he lost his young son Prabhudas. Prabhudas used to sit in meditation and go into trance. He would bring dried dates, sugar candy, etc. from Maharaj in the form of prasad. When he died at the age of 16, Natha Bhakta distributed sweets among the people of the town. Some of the people were horrified at this untimely art of charity. They thought that Natha Bhakta had lost his balance of mind. Natha Bhakta explained that he was not sorry for the death of his son because his son was a devotee of the Lord. God has called him to his side. Such was the noble understanding of Natha Bhakta. Shiji Maharaj praised the profound understanding of Natha Bhakta and asked others to follow his behavior in Balmandal. We need food and water to preserve our body. We bathe to keep it clean and perform exercise to keep our body strong and healthy. Similarly, we should cultivate noble thoughts to keep our minds pure. For training our minds and to learn good behavior, we should become members of the Balmandal. By visiting the Balmandal, we will be able to purify our minds. We learn how to get rid of bad habits, so it is essential that we should never miss any of the weekly meetings of the Balmandal. In the Bhamandal, we learn how to behave properly. When we enter a temple, we should first prostrate before God, then bow down to all the saints present in the meeting. We should never laugh or crack jokes while the meeting is in progress. Some children have a habit of indulging in all sorts of pranks when a discourse is in progress. Not only do they not listen to the discourse themselves, but they do not allow others to listen. We should bear in mind that we go there to learn something good and beneficial, not to create a disturbance. We should listen attentively to the talks and stories narrated by our elders. We should try to remember and note the anecdotes and stories that we hear. At the time of prayer, we should think of only God and our Guru. We should remain still and quiet and not fidget. When we are asked a question, we should reply in a very polite manner. During games, we should not quarrel with the other participants. Neither should we be too proud of our victory or feel depressed when we are defeated. We should allow the younger players to play first. Remember, we should not think about play all the time. We must be particular in our studies as well. We should bear in mind the precept, work while you work and play while you play. When prasad is being distributed, we should wait quietly for our turn in the specified row. Before eating the prasad, remember God. We should take as much prasad as we want, but we should not waste any of it. Take great care of the spill of the prasad around you. If prasad is served on a paper plate, then paper plates should be thrown away in the waste paper basket. If it is given on a plate, we should wash our plates. After taking prasad, don't rush for water, but wait in an orderly queue until your turn comes. We should drink water in a clean glass, and should have it in such a way that the glass does not touch our lips. Then we should clean the place ourselves and follow the ideal of self-help, of doing our own work ourselves. After taking prasad in this way, remember to say Jai Swaminarayan to everybody before Vajiba of Vijaypur. God alone knows the affection that a real devotee bears for him in his heart. Vajiba is an ideal example of a true devotee. A real devotee does not waver in his faith in spite of the doubts raised by others. Even if God himself came down to test the sincerity of a true devotee or undermine his faith, he will not flinch from his loyalty and devotion. Vajiba of Vijaypur was one such devotee. Vajiba was of Satvara caste. She adored saints and aesthetics. She would always invite saints to her house and then offer them everything she had. Even if she knew they were addicted to marijuana or heroin, her faith in them did not falter. She would respect all of them equally because she believed them to be God-men. Once, Ramdas Swami, a Paramahansa of Shiji Maharaj, came to Vijaypur. As was Vajiba's practice, Ramdas Swami was also asked to come to her place, and when he came, he was given a respectful welcome. Ramdas Swami stayed there for 12 days and talked to her husband about God, religion, and about the characteristics of a true saint. He described to him the glory of Swaminarayan. Vajiba listened to these religious talks from behind a curtain. Both Vajiba and her husband, inspired by the talks of Ramdas Swami, accepted the precepts and doctrines of Swaminarayan and became his satsangi, enthusiastic followers. From then on, Vajiba stopped giving shelter to saints who indulged in intoxicants like bhang, marijuana, or heroin. Even though she had not met Shiji Maharaj, she became one of the most faithful disciples. Once, Shiji Maharaj came to Vijaypur to test her faith in him. He took Puji Brahmachari with him. Vajiba did not know he was Shiji Maharaj. Maharaj came to the town and inquired whether if he could find shelter for the night. Some of the people said, "There is a woman here, Vajiba, who used to give shelter to saints and ascetics, but she does not entertain them any more because she has become an exclusive devotee of Swaminarayan. She does not have any faith in the Bhavas and Vedagis, who are all for all sorts of intoxicants. She now advises such people to seek refuge and counsel of Swaminarayan for the upliftment of their souls." Maharaj went to Vajiba's place and asked for shelter. "We are pilgrims," he said. "We want to stay here for the night. Will you allow us to lie down here in front of your house? We won't ask for anything else." Vajiba replied somewhat harshly, "Hypocrites and cheats like you come here in large numbers. Did you take to the saffron robe and priesthood because you could not get enough to eat? It seems that you are happily maintaining your robust frame, but have you ever thought of the well-being of your Atma? I am sorry, I don't give any lodging or boarding to sadhus like you. Oh, before you leave, one word of advice. If you wish to attain salvation, you must seek refuge at the feet of Swaminarayan." "Vajiba, you are mistaken," Maharaj protested. "Swaminarayan is not God. On the contrary, he is a hypocrite. I think you have been misled by someone about his glory and greatness. The Pandits from Kashi can prove that he is not God. Seeing that you are illiterate and gullible, someone thought he could mislead you. But Vajiba was firm in her faith. She retorted, "You and your Pandits are all wrong. I am prepared to follow Swaminarayan even if it costs me my life. Henceforth, if I hear you speak ill of Swaminarayan, I shall throw all of your belongings out of my house." Meanwhile, her husband came and also rebuked Maharaj for all speaking ill of Swaminarayan. Maharaj was silenced. "I shall not speak a word," he said. "Please allow us to stay here for one night. We won't ask for anything else." Vajiba allowed Maharaj to stay there, but made it plain that she would not give him any bedding or foodstuff. "If I catch you smoking them, I will throw you out that very minute," she warned them. Maharaj could not sleep. After some time he asked for a cot. Vajiba said that she didn't have one. Maharaj reminded her that she had a painted cot in the room at the back. "You could give me that one for the night, couldn't you?" Maharaj asked. Vajiba was taken aback. How could this sadhu know about the bed in my back room? She brought the cot from the back room and placed it in the courtyard. After some time, Maharaj asked for a mattress to put on the bed. Vajiba refused, saying that she did not have any mattresses. Maharaj again reminded her that she had a pile of mattresses. From the pile, he wanted the new one that was right in the middle. Vajiba was again surprised at Maharaj's insight. She gave him the mattress. To ease the day's fatigue, Maharaj stretched his legs. He stretched his legs further and touched the peepal tree in the compound. Divine light radiated from his big toe of his right foot. Vajiba saw this from the crack in the door and was dumbfounded at the sight. She thought, "This sadhu may have supernatural powers, but he cannot equal Lord Swaminarayan." Her faith in the supremacy of Swaminarayan never faltered. After some time, Vajiba went to Garuda for darshan of Maharaj. On seeing her, Maharaj called her and asked, "Have you seen these feet before? They are the same as those that were touched the peepal tree in your compound." Vajiba was amazed and felt repented for not recognizing Maharaj. She asked for forgiveness with a feeling of shame. "Maharaj, I am sorry I could not recognize you." Maharaj replied, "You are a true devotee, and I came only to test your faith in me. But you passed the test. I am extremely happy on followers like you." Maharaj told everyone about the staunch faith of Vajiba reposed in him. He concluded by saying, "We should all be as steadfast in our faith as Divine Song, Kirtan. भाव धरीने बोलो जय जय अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम जय जय अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम जय जय शास्त्र सकलनो सार प्ररमये ब्रह्मयने परब्रह्म जय जय ब्रह्मयने परब्रह्म जय जय मूढयक्षर जे ब्रह्मयनादि गुणातीतानन्द जय जय गुणातीतानन्द जय जय पुरुषोत्तम परब्रह्म परात्पर श्री हरि सहजानंद जय जय श्री हरि सहजानंद जय जय नरतनुधारी पोते प्रगट्या स्वामी अने भगवान जय जय स्वामी अने भगवान जय जय भावे नाम रतन करवाथी शांति पामे मन जय जय शांति पामे मन जय जय माटे सर्वे बोलो जय जय अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम जय जय अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम जय जय भाव धरीने बोलो जय जय अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम जय जय अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम जय जय अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम जय जय